6:30. I will open up the meeting. We have a quorum. We have 6 of us here. And for anybody watching, I will reiterate that we have one more opening available on FinCom. And if you have any interest in becoming a part of this, would like to get involved, please fill out one of the talent information forms and get it into us. And we'll get in touch with you and give you a call and set something up to meet with you. So, that being done, the first item is the approval of the December 18th, 2024 meeting minutes. They are in your packet. You have a draft. I hope we got them well in advance. Everybody had time to take a look at them. Yep. Any questions on them? Christian, Jamie, any questions?
No.
All right.
I make a motion to approve, Hank.
I got a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
I got a second over here. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no. Jamie, I don't see you, so I can't see you wave your hand if you do. There you are, okay. All right. So that is unanimous. All right. First up, we have our police chief and the police budget right at 6:30. Chief, we've got some new members. If you'd like to introduce yourself to our new members.
Danny Dow, Town PD, and Deputy Chief Gary Mason.
All right, you want to walk us through, what'd you say, animal control?
Yeah, if you want to
first?
do ACO.
So that's the sheet that Ashley just handed out to you.
Yeah, so for Kristen and Jamie, I didn't put that in the Dropbox, we just printed it, so I'll add it
You
out.
might not have
so
got that
we
one.
can add it.
It's an extra one.
So as far as the ACO budget, not much has changed. We have the same personnel as we've had previously. The only real expenses is I think we've adjusted, looked at what we spent last year on veterinarian expenses, supplies and maintenance, and the big thing we've been having, there's no good answer to fix it, is it's got a tight tank down there, and they've been washing a lot of clothing and for the blankets and stuff for the pets. We've been pumping it more, so we just kind of wanted to get it more accurate. We looked at how much, we wanted to make sure the tank wasn't leaking and all this stuff before we came up with a Plan B, but it seems like realistically, the cheapest thing for us to do is just to have it pumped out more often, leave the tank that's previous there now, so that's probably the only change that you'll probably, anomaly from the past year. As far as a 5-year plan for capital on that, the only thing, years ago, Casella donated, out of the kindness of their heart, they donated a animal control van that's got some issues. Some of it is the places she needs to get to and its ability to get there. Jim Philbrook and Health would like the van, so we're trying to figure out something, but we're gonna loan her a vehicle from the police department in the meantime, and if we get another vehicle, we'll. So you'll see that's a big item, but she usually doesn't normally have a lot of asks, but that's an anomaly because we haven't had a vehicle in there in 10 years, so.
Oh, okay.
I found the discrepancy in salaries.
Thank
Huh?
God.
I didn't add the new body that he asked, the 2 new bodies he asked for on this spreadsheet, because I had to take the salaries out,
Okay.
so that's
I
why.
figured you'd come up with the answer.
This is, like, I know my spreadsheet is the correct one.
Okay, all right,
So
that's,
the one he has in front of him is that's the correct number.
okay. So we're all set with animal control. Anybody got any questions of the chief on animal control?
No.
Jamie?
Actually, I have a question. This is Jamie.
Yep.
I apologize that I don't have my camera on, but in like 5 minutes, I'll be at my house and I'll be able to put my camera on. I just wanted to know, so is the lot so small that we're not able to put a septic system on it, and that's why?
Well, there's
it's
a
not tank?
there's a small tank there. It's not that small. I think it's 2,500 gallons, Gary? What did we say it was? Anyways, I don't want to misquote. It's just that if we did something like because of where it sits and it's next to the salt shed and all the, bringing in an engineer and all these things too, it's not an easy, is just putting something in there we've got to be up to code. We just felt that the cost of that is far exceeds what we're trying to accomplish, so probably just pumping it out a couple more times a year. And when she's had deficiencies, we've just paid for it out of the police department because I need a place for the animals to go, so it's not ideal. So we said, let's just be transparent and say, hey, we've been spending this money pumping, but it really should be coming from that line item.
Yep.
So it'll be like quarterly or by?
we put an alarm in it, you know, we've done a lot of things so that what happens is all of a sudden, everything's out of commission, and we're like, how do we fix, you know, pump it, and plumbers, so we're trying to get ahead of that by pumping it a little bit more often. Did that
Yeah,
answer?
so this is actually the field that I work in, that's why I asked it. So I kind of have a bunch of knowledge on this, and so I think it's really expensive to continue to maintain a tight tank over time. And so I was just trying to look for a long-term solution, even if the short-term solution is to continue to maintain the tight tank. And then I wanted to know if it's like bedding that's being washed and stuff, is it possibly cheaper to bring it to a laundromat than it is to continue to pump out the tight tank?
Those are good questions that I don't have answers for. I mean, I could certainly find out, you know, how often they're using it, but that's the only thing that we thought, that maybe things are getting washed more because it seems to be filling up more than it is, and it's not human use. It's definitely, you know, so.
Okay, and have you had a plumber come in to look yet to see if there's possibly a leak in a toilet that's in there or something? Because if it's not, if that happens, and it fills really fast if that happens.
Yeah, no, that's the
So
that's the first thing we
it's
did,
more
Jamie.
Okay.
We brought a
Okay.
plumber in, and we had him evaluate, and Gary went in too, and Gary's into this. He's checking the thing every day to make sure the water level didn't drop or anything, so that we could determine that it was even a slower leak than we thought. It apparently is not a leak. We had a tank inspection done, because we thought the tank might be cracked and losing groundwater coming into it from the other way. We don't seem to, I'm okay if the town wants to spend tens of thousands of dollars, but that would be a 5-year capital plan, I would think. And I mean, I can put something in for next year, but I just thought that
So
this would,
I'm not opposed to what you're proposing, I just kind of wanted to talk it through because there is a, you know, we should look at the long term also, that's all.
yep, I don't disagree with you, I just didn't want to sticker shock anybody.
Okay.
So
All
that
right,
might be
thank you very
something we'll
much.
see in October.
Thank you.
Well, it's possible, I mean, I can add it to, it's just that, you know, like I said, it sounded like it was gonna need some engineering to be up to code if we were gonna do this, so once we saw, oh, we're going down a bad path as far as money,
Yep.
with a vehicle and all these other needs, it just seemed like a lot to ask the town. But I'm not disagreeing with you, Jamie.
And I would think that a vehicle probably will have a little higher priority than a septic system.
Well, it depends. If you wanna use the toilet, you're gonna put a high priority on that, right?
That's true, too. That's true, too. Okay, and then, all right, and then you've got your 5-year summary, which will, for the capital, we'll put that aside. All right, let's get into your budget, chief.
All right, so Ashley tells me we're level funded for 2024,
From 2024, yeah.
from 2024.
Yeah.
And the only thing that's added is that's what we're looking at is the two new asks are an admin sergeant and a dispatcher. So I'll start with the dispatchers. The days of operating with one dispatcher are just non-existent. It's just not the standard, it's not the industry standard, it's not the fire department standard, it's not the police department standard. We're asking people to do a lot. We've hired some people and we've gotten further along over the years. So now we're doubled up much more often, but we're still running nights, overnights with one person. So the problem that becomes, we've had somebody that's pregnant, we've got to do things, we've got to bring staff off the road in order to put somebody in the building. There's no bathroom within the dispatch center, so if they leave, we're kind of in
How many
violation.
available dispatchers do we have today, including the pregnant lady?
Currently,
Yeah.
we have 7. This would move us to 8. 7 and 2 part-time people. So what would happen is if with 8 people, we're able to run 2 at a time on like a 4 and 2 type schedule.
Yeah.
So that's what we're hoping to get to. Now, the town is looking and pursuing possibilities of regional dispatch, which would mean combining resources with another community and stuff, but we're not there. We're in a.
Like I said, we've been talking about that
Well,
for
we've
10
talked about it
years.
several times, and sometimes it gets to town meeting, the townspeople don't want to do it, or things that, there is a push. What's in the dispatch centers is something called a PSAP. That's something owned by Verizon. That's all your 911 information goes through a PSAP. That is critical to have in a dispatch center. It's supposed to be monitored and watched, somebody's supposed to be there at all times. If you lose a PSAP, it's over $1 million to get it back. It's free to have right now, but if you give it up and you say, oh, I don't want regional dispatch, I want to go back to, if you can get one, you're talking at least $1 million to get what you already had. So we're trying to figure this out, how to get as much staffing in case we don't go regional, that we're kind of in compliance with what we should be. And if we do go regional in the future, you know, we can just back out of this, but that's the direction.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
going regional is a big leap, because we give something
Oh, wait,
up that would
being,
cost us a lot.
well, you give up ownership of it, and you have to, there's a board typically that oversees it. Each town has a commitment. We all have the same goals. Everybody wants quick emergency service. But it would just be one area that would do several towns. It works in some communities. It doesn't work in some communities, so as we pursue this, we're trying to look at the communities that it does work in and see what they're doing right, and find out what the communities that it doesn't work and what they're doing wrong, so that we kind of have a blueprint of how to have a good product. If we are going to go to it in the future, we have a good product.
So if we were part of a regional, we would not have 8 on our own staff. We what?
You're gonna hate this, Hank. Supposedly, there's no savings by going to regional. You're talking about efficiency and staffing improving and capabilities improving, because those places still need, say it costs you $900,000 to do your dispatch here currently, it would take you'd probably have to pay $900,000 to go elsewhere. But what you would get rid of is the staffing, all those things, but it doesn't come free of cost.
Right, we would get a shared invoice with
Exactly.
whoever else we
Exactly.
were.
But
we would lose
they always tell
control.
you, it's never about a dollar savings, because typically it is efficiency and improvements and better training for the people that are in there, but it's not a cost saving. It's not like,
Right.
hey, if we go to regional, we're gonna cut our costs in half. That's not what we've been told.
But you'd be assured that there would be 3 dispatchers on every shift at
Exactly.
every time.
And what we wouldn't be doing
That's
is,
what you're
you know,
paying.
the problem right now, and everybody sees it that has dispatches, is it's a very hard commodity to keep. It's a very hard commodity to find. You give me the option to make $25 and work from home, and I'm in my slippers and have to go to work in the snow and everything else, and be in a dispatch center and not being able to leave. There's a lot more people leaning that way than
Yep.
that way, so it's harder and harder. The days of part-time people, we've got 2 that are very good, but they have a lot of experience. It's hard to find somebody new and say, I can't even tell you when you're gonna work, but we might have a shift open. You know, it's very hard to keep people, because as soon as somebody's trained up, we often utilize grants to train people. As soon as they're trained up, somebody else plucks them.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, I got hours to give you. Well, I don't even have hours to give them, so.
Yeah. So you said there were 2 additional salaried in the line item, one
Yes.
being the dispatcher?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Which would then bring us up to 8 with
That
2
would,
part-timers?
that would.
So right now, we have 7 on,
What, we'd be able to go so that, to 24-hour coverage.
yeah. Okay. So
Now, I remember last year, did we put one on last year as well?
Yeah, in October.
We did. We've had a couple, we had somebody that left with, he had cancer and he resigned, medically resigned. We had somebody that had a baby who couldn't find childcare, so she left, so we've been replacing people.
Okay.
We had somebody that went to the state police, we replaced her, but it's,
No, but we did add one. I
We did.
thought,
We did.
in
Just in
right.
October, yes.
Was
that's
there a
on
dual
We did.
role?
what's that?
Was there a dual role, police officer / dispatch?
We tried to consider, could we hire an officer and then train them to do the dispatch, but then from a cost-effective analysis, it's probably cheaper to train somebody to do just that job, because a police officer gets paid more.
Yeah.
I've got to deal with Quinn Bill with the police officers, so
Yeah.
I'm paying somebody at a higher rate to do the job that I could pay a dispatcher less, and
That makes sense.
specifically do that. But we did look at that as possibly a cost saving, but that's what we found as an obstacle.
Yeah, okay. What is the other position that you're looking to add?
It's an administrative sergeant.
Okay. And that's to relieve some of his duties?
Well, that's to do a lot of duties, but unfortunately, what happened was, I've spoken with, at least, I've been directed, sort of, by a selectman or two to pursue this, because what's happened with Amazon is they're very concerned about the incidents we've had at Amazon. If I brought somebody, and I'm trying to explain, I've got people doing these administrative duties, that I have to have them at certain time frames working, so when something happens at 3 o'clock in the morning, I don't have a body at 3 o'clock in the morning, because I got them in doing stuff, admin stuff during the day. So they understand the importance of the admin work that's gotta get done, so they said, why don't we give you an admin person to do that, and then you can move people to different shifts to offset.
So there was no particular, because I watched the selectmen's meeting, and they referenced something about your Amazon issues, but they never actually said
Yeah,
what
so
the
we've
issues
had
were.
I'll be honest with you, we did a tour, and Gary was there as well, and he'll tell you, they said you have to treat it like a city. You wouldn't believe the stuff that goes on up there, because you're dealing with, thousands of employees, and in some parts of, there's like, there's domestics, there's fist fights, there's between people, there's gangs that, because they're bringing people in from the city that, there's all kinds of problems that you have no idea that even exist. We're just getting called up there quite a bit. The incident we were called about that triggered the selectmen being concerned was a call came from inside Amazon on their radio system saying there was a shooting. So everybody had to flood in, and we're fortunate, we have good mutual aid in this area, and people came, and we had state police and all the local agencies around us helping. But the security had run out of the building because they thought somebody was shooting.
Their security.
And locked the doors. So then we're breaking down doors because it was a legitimate threat at the time, because it came over their radio system, and people said, I heard it. I mean, there was no doubt that they heard the radio transmission that somebody had just been shot. There was a domestic up there earlier in the evening, and the person had firearm history, so everybody started saying, hey, we were just looking for a guy did he get in the building? Did he go in? So it became a rather rapid response, but they thought it was legitimate. It wasn't, oh, I heard a noise. It wasn't that. It was people calling staff members. It was somebody goofing off within the Amazon facility, saying something inappropriate on the emergency channel. But we didn't know that, and unfortunately, they had been looking for somebody that potentially had a firearm, and then next thing you know, they're calling saying, and this unfolded.
Yeah. So this caused you to drag somebody out of the station, send them up there?
Well, that was started with,
And-
you only
and-
have one dispatcher on, she's 8 months pregnant, she can't go to the bathroom, she's dealing with multiple agencies, so that was what we were talking about when we did our after-action review of what we did right, what we did wrong.
Yep.
We looked at some of the shortcomings, and we're like, she can't even go to the bathroom. Like, calls are coming in from everybody, people's responding, fire departments showing up, everybody was helping, and with the best intentions, but we're overburdening a person. It's hard to predict. From a scheduling point, you wouldn't have thought that type of activity would have happened at that hour. We try to match people up as based upon the numbers.
Yeah.
So it was just an odd time to come in. It was Sunday morning, Gary? So it was
Yeah.
just an odd time, 5 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday.
Sunday morning, yeah.
Which was,
Okay. Have there been that many, on average, how many times you go to Amazon in a day? Once?
no,
Oh,
it
no,
can
okay.
be more than that.
Okay.
It's sometimes it's minor stuff.
Yep.
I mean, there's people that want to they'll call us and say, like, somebody's bothering me, I need to come here so I can walk to my car. There's things there's very minor things, there's people, here's the thing, because of their schedules, they camp out and stay there. Like, it's just easier for me to sleep in my car and do my 3 days, and which leads to, well, I might as well have a few beers in the parking lot and get into a fight with the guy that's doing the same, that type of thing.
Okay.
So there's plenty of good things that come from this, the taxes and
Yeah.
but there's some drawbacks.
Okay.
And they did a study and they said, hey, who's gonna really get impacted by this the most? It's the police department. I thought, hey, what about the fire department? What about the ambulance? And they said, the workforce is typically healthy. And just because you got hundreds of people that are young and healthy doesn't mean you got, like the schools. The ambulance doesn't go to the school every day, even though there's hundreds and hundreds of kids there, because they're healthy.
Right.
They said the workforce tends to be healthy. If we built a nursing home, probably be there all the time. Or a detox center, you'd probably be there all the time. But this is able-bodied people working, not a lot of health issues.
Yep.
Fire, because it's a new type of a building with a fire suppression system, state-of-the-art, and, Kurt certainly made them do everything up to code, so
Yep.
it's not gonna probably burn. They could have some other types of incidents involving the fire department, but probably the building burning down isn't realistic. But they said, hey, you are gonna have all these incidental problems and traffic.
Which is probably something we never thought of when we were looking at Amazon, right?
Well, I wouldn't have thought of it either. It's like a shiny car. I gotta get that, and then I didn't realize it comes with this, that's all.
Yeah, okay.
I think it was one of those things that was identified, as potential impact, you don't really know until it hits the ground. But, from a community benefits standpoint, it's difficult to say, fund the police office, the police department at, you know, at X. We kind of knew that tax revenue was gonna have to go towards supplementing the police department, where the fire department is more or less, right, an apparatus, you know, equipment, those are
Right.
one-time purchases that you can more or less negotiate.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Would it make sense at some point, maybe, to approach them on a pay detail or something? It sounds like they have a need.
Oh, they've asked us to do, Gary just compiled some numbers for them. I mean, they want, like, hey, it's so hard to get in and out of here. We're wondering if we can hire a person to do this, or, you know, we're throwing, like, we don't know what to tell you, you know? I
Right.
mean, it's your money, but there might be a better cost-effective way of doing it.
So we don't bear the cost, some of it gets shifted.
So they have
to
on-site
them.
security, but they're not armed.
Right.
And a lot of their,
They ran outside.
well, a lot of their, hey, I don't know what I would do unarmed either, let's be honest. I hope I wouldn't do that, but, you know, what, they're unarmed. They're new at this. It's not like they've been doing it for 10 years or something. A lot of them, massive hiring of employees. They have a philosophy, in my opinion, where they'll hire 500 people and get rid of 300, then hire another 300, and it'll keep people, but it's not a glamorous job. They're working hard. It's kind of like when I was a kid, you could get a high-paying job at UPS, but you were working, you go, oh my God, I see why they pay better than minimum wage. They're just practically whipping you in to do loading trucks or whatever. It's the
Right.
same type of philosophy. I think they have a big turnover of people. They're trying to hire people. They don't know conflicts that exist between people and they're dealing with, but the building is massive, so.
Right, I mean, I guess, what responsibility are they taking for these challenges, you know?
Well, what we
Creating
did
a
was,
city
obviously, that
that's
Sunday,
their business, you know?
that Sunday that event happened, that Monday morning, we were meeting with them and saying, hey, you know, you need to work on X, Y, and Z. It would have been a lot easier if you could identify what radio was used, a recording of who said it. At least we got something to work off of. Well, somebody had given us a donation, and we immediately went out and ordered a smaller drone so that we could maybe clear the building quicker from an internal, but I can't send my only drone and smash it up, just look, you know what I mean? So we're trying to get a cheaper version of how to make that happen, save time.
Yep,
A lot went right.
it's Amazon, they should.
Yeah, a lot went
use those
right,
drones,
you know?
right?
But there were things that went wrong, and you always want to try to fix the things that went wrong.
Are you finding the winding down of the Route 20 reconstruction? making
Yeah,
it
but some of
easier?
it's seasonal, so you know, they are definitely a year ahead of time. They've definitely knocked off a year, but there's still, like all those poles they moved, they told me at one point in time that they were gonna these poles are all gonna be moved like 4 times. I don't know what iteration they're in right now, because I see them now doing some pole work, so.
Yeah,
Where they stand now is not where they're gonna eventually stand, and there's gonna be, there's obviously gonna be landscaping, and there's still things to be done, but I don't see you're gonna see the number. This year was like detail Armageddon, because, while that was going on, Amazon was getting finished and opened up, there were details at Amazon for the construction, there were details on 20 for, that project. And then, why wouldn't a tree company come in and say, hey, we're gonna send 8 crews a day in, and we need two offices a day for X number of weeks, and they're wrapping up, so it's starting to slow down, but it always slows down this time of the year.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So people-wise, that's what we've got for next year is the 2 additional. The other question that I follow up from last year, so you went to trying to rent cars, lease cars?
Lease.
Versus, how's that working?
Well, it hasn't started yet.
Oh, we haven't started?
No,
yet.
no, no, and the reason why is it's almost been taking a year to get cars. So now, the cars we're in a decision where we have to choose. We've got cars locked in as Chevys, and we've got cars locked in as Fords. We just gotta make a decision, but they're not there on the ground.
Okay.
So, that's been the problem. So what happened, COVID threw everything. It's not, I shouldn't even say it's always the cars. A lot of times it's the outfitting of the cars. And a lot of the outfitters are, I don't know, there's a big company that they're all merging, and MHQ was now they got bought out by McGovern, and so now all of a sudden you had a contract with this group, and now you gotta wait for a new quote because everything's changed. So we've been using Colonial. They told us they're gonna take care of us. I know we've got some cars that we've replaced that have been fixed, but one car we got kind of screwed on. You know how cheap I am. I said, oh, I'll take that leftover. And No sooner did we take it thinking I was the smartest guy in the room, and then Gary pointed out I was the dumbest guy in the room because they had it all built and now there's a recall on it. Now, our officers are driving the same cars that have a recall, and that's okay, but they won't let it leave the new, because it's new and never been turned over, so it's been, I don't know, we're still waiting on that. So, you think you're saving $1, but what did you save, you know?
Right. So we don't really know yet how that program's gonna work, because,
We gotta use it in the right situations. I gotta put a leased car in somebody that's gonna get 4 or 5 years in use or more to make it worthwhile to pay it up front and over the 3 years. I don't think we can do patrol cars because the mileage is so high. Like, we're gonna be making payments on something that's in the junkyard, or it's been totaled, so. But I think it's a good option. I think it's a good option for the town because it gives you another way of financing something, and there's really no cost. And what they typically do is they stretch the payments out, and at the end of that lease, it's $1 to own it.
right,
So it's a no-brainer to keep it. You know, you're gonna get more than that at the scrapyard even if you kept it, but.
yeah, okay.
If you don't mind,
Yeah, go ahead. Jer-
Ashley or Andrew, can you switch me so I can get off my phone and I can be on my computer? One of the panel, I don't know, switch the panels. And then I had a question, but it was back to the personnel that you had been requesting. Let me just join it so I can not have it echoing.
It's not that bad here, Jamie, the echoing.
There it goes. Well, she has on her
Yeah,
phone.
it was just really
Yeah.
echoey for me. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. So I just wanted to understand, so how many incidents have you guys been called up to on Amazon? There must be log sheets, I know you guys keep.
No, there are, I just don't have that in front of me. I don't wanna mislead you and say it's this many, or, you know, sometimes people will go up there and one call might have them up there for an hour. So it's gonna say one, but, you know, it puts them out of service for an hour, so we'd have to, you know, to give you a real detailed report of how much resources they're taking. And I shouldn't say they're taking, I mean, they're paying for these resources, so I don't mean to say that they're taking resources, but it's certainly changing how we do business, because, you know, if they're up there, they can't be somewhere else.
Okay, I'm just thinking, obviously adding somebody, you never want to add somebody that you're not going to continue to maintain to have year after year after year. And so I'm just wondering if we had some kind of documentation as to, gee, this has added 40% more of a person that we need. Do we really need a full-time person? Do we, you know, I'm trying to balance.
Okay, what I can tell you, Jamie, is some things have changed. There's something called post now, so the days of part-time offices are almost impossible because there's no part-time academy to send them, so it's very difficult to find, like, even say, hey, give me somebody for 16 hours because I can't necessarily send somebody and get them trained. I have to send them to a full-time academy now. There was a bridge program, but that's ending. They're already in the last part of the alphabet, so it's very hard. It's gonna get more challenging to find officers. The other thing is, I think if you put people on now, if something were to slow down, as people retire, and there's gonna be retirements looming, you could just not hire then if you were concerned that all of a sudden Amazon is no longer the problem that it is. You could always just not replace when somebody left. But I think if you look at what the FBI thinks that a population of Charlton should have for personnel, we're definitely under that number. We're a lot closer than we were 2 years ago. We're much closer, and I'm very appreciative of that. But I don't think we're overstaffed. When you're trying to put, you know, 2 or 3 people on at a time, and you gotta encounter, people gotta go to training, people get injured, people are on a maternity, paternity, all those things, it's very difficult to do that without bodies. If I have an admin person doing admin work, I can always put them on the road if the situation applies and people go out injured on duty and things like that. I have options with an officer that I don't have with a civilian. So that's kind of my mindset. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, I mean, I was really just trying to get a sense of it. I mean, I understood the bomb threat, or sorry, the shooting threat. Like, I understood that if there's an incident, that's going to take all your officers, and I get that. But I was trying to get a sense of how many of those incidents
Well, as far as the threatening of a shooting, there was just the one. That's what caused the selectmen to be concerned about, wait, what happened? How come they were getting calls, because everybody saw cruisers from all over the place responding. It was early Sunday morning, everybody was calling, I'm sure they were getting called. They were trying to find out, trying to solve the mystery of what transpired. And we were just telling them, hey, we had a couple people on, we had all our bodies there, we had to call the state police, we had to call local resources, because that building is massive, so,
Yeah, and that's how it's supposed to work, right? That's why you have mutual aid, that you would call somebody in if there was an incident.
absolutely, absolutely.
I'm
And
just
in
trying
a
to figure out
situation
what's
like
the
that,
day-to-day-
right, mutual aid worked flawlessly, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
But if the more bodies I have, when I've got calls up there for the minor stuff, they're like, this is what happens, unfortunately, we're seeing this all the time, too. A couple doesn't get along, she doesn't call the police when the person's home, I'm just assuming it's a guy and a woman. The woman will call when the husband, she knows he's going to work, so she'll say, he's headed to Amazon, he'll be there his shift starts at 6 PM. He needs to be arrested, and then the officers will try to get up to Amazon and find him, because that's probably likely where he is going to work. And so we're spending a lot of time with those type of things, conflicts with employees. You know, and Amazon is obviously concerned, the way their security is structured, it's more to keep product from going out. They're not concerned about what you or I bring in, so it leads to other issues within the workplace.
Okay, I just would love to see like the data on how many more calls you're going to up there. I don't really need the specifics, but if you're increasing, you know, the activity log up there by X, it will tell me kind of where we're
Okay.
at. Thanks.
Yeah. So of the two people you're looking to add, one is civilian, one is police?
Yes, sir.
officer. Okay. He's a sergeant, I think you said?
Yes, sir.
Administrative sergeant. Okay. The only other thing on your budget that was new is the K-9 expenses, that's a new program?
That's
No, what I highlighted for new is we did put in something called community events. All right, you're gonna hate me for this one.
Oh, and it's funny because
you don't like it,
community
not-
events is 0 on this one, but $7,000 on this one, or,
Well, you see my
You know what I
frustrations
did?
with
I
Ashley.
don't know how that happened. Something happened when I think I put it over, because I took it out of the big budget.
Yep.
This last column,
yep,
even though it's not, it says change, that's really FY '26.
yep.
So it's got a dollar amount in there. So the column right next to that percent number is the column, the headers are just off. I
Okay,
don't know why,
all right.
that's how it printed.
So anyway, you're looking to add $7,000 to the community?
Can I
event
give you a
budget
2-minute
line?
version of why? All right.
I'm afraid
So
to
what,
ask.
no, there's two things, two things. Pan Mass Challenge, we bring people in, the bikers come from, that's ending. So this year, once we're through, now it's gonna start at Holy Cross. And so we're done with Pan Mass, but that's part of one of the events that we gotta prepare for. The other one is Old Home Day. So Old Home Day does two things. It's fireworks, and it's the event itself, Old Home Day and the parade. I've gotta bring in officers and staffing. I apparently am responsible for the road race, but everybody over there just says, hey, you know what you need to do? You need an officer here, you need an officer, they've got all these wants, and this guy's paying for it. So at some point, I said, well, let's call it what it is. I mean, we're spending this much money. So what we did is we took last year's numbers, what we paid to make Old Home Day happen, and we were hoping that Old Home Day would then say, hey, can you budget us this much money to offset the cost of the police department? Because the conflict that we really have is we're closing roads and doing things for a private event, a road race. You know, whatever the good cause it is, but it's not, you know, and the next person that's doing legitimate work, fixing a pole or something, we're making them have a detail. So to me, it's a little conflicting, like, well, if you want the roads closed for 4 hours, then or 2 hours, you're gonna have to start paying for that, or the town's gonna have to realize, like, I lose that money right out of the gate, because
Yep.
what upset me the most was contractually I have obligations to notify people 2 hours before if I'm gonna cancel an event, so they don't have to pay them, otherwise I gotta pay them 4 hours. They call me in the morning and say, hey, we might be doing this another day. I got people, like, I'm getting people signed up, and it's like, just telling me in a smaller version, it's like saying, hey, we're gonna run the Boston Marathon another day, when you get all these people scheduled to be at certain places for certain hours, and then they just say, well, there's no cost to you, I still have to pay them.
Yeah.
You know, so I can't go down that road of,
Okay.
you know, they either gotta commit to a day and you just say, hey, Dan, you have to take care of that. All right, that's life, I'll take care of it, I'll figure it out. But, or they have to figure out a way to help.
Okay, so this line item is pretty much geared for Old Home Day, it sounds like.
Yes. The
To
bulk of
start
it is,
with, okay,
yeah.
and-
The
until
Pam
we
Ask
come up with
Challenge, typically,
something-
it's real quick, and I get a lot of people to volunteer. But again, to what I was telling Jamie about, it's very difficult to get volunteers now, because part-time people that typically did that are kind of
Yeah.
going away with
Yeah.
posts.
Okay.
Hank, may I comment on this one?
Try that one again,
Kristen,
Christian, yeah,
can I
no,
comment on this one?
She said, can she comment on that one?
yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
All right. So I have a little bit of intimate knowledge with this one because I do put on one of the road races, the kids, and as Gary knows, because I filled him in last year, I've had cars drive up towards my children for 2 years now. So I very much appreciate the police detail. So last year it became common knowledge to the committee for Old Home Day that we would have to absorb this cost. So that's why Old Home Day has approached us for increased costs. I wanna make sure we don't double dip here and it goes in one budget or another. The other thing I wanna comment on, Chief, is the road race has committed to moving with Old Home Day. So it will never be another day, you'll never have to have the backup officers.
That, yeah, yes, Chris, that was
They will
agreed upon,
move-
but Old Home Day itself hasn't agreed that they won't switch the day. So in other words, that's why they
No,
moved it.
they're not gonna agree to switch the day. They're going, Old Home Day's gonna switch the day, the road race will switch the day to be with Old Home
Right,
Days.
so
I
if
don't
it-
want you to have 2 days.
No, and I appreciate that, but what I'm saying is, if the change is made, I gotta, if they don't give me 2 hours' notice, I gotta pay,
Move
what,
everyone.
regardless of who moves, we're still on the paying thing. Doesn't matter if Old Home Day moves it or the road race.
Yeah.
And then the road race people, good people, but they were a little like, well, we might run the road race another day, and that's, I appreciate you resolving
Yeah.
that, because I was like, oh, just, yeah, sure, whatever you feel.
I wanna make sure we don't double budget
Yeah,
as a
no.
town.
Yep.
It's gonna get paid for,
No,
it's gonna get paid for.
And Christian, the chief probably doesn't know that at the last meeting, Old Home Day came to us and said, we'd like to up our budget by $25,000.
Yeah,
So
Hey,
I think that's
sadly, I
where
attend those
Christian is
meetings
saying.
for Old Home Day.
Huh?
Sadly, I attend those meetings, because sometimes I just wanna
Yeah.
check out. I don't know the cost of fireworks and all the stuff, the entertainment, that, I don't know what, they have not talked to me, I'm just telling you what,
Right,
the
right.
police department spent this much money
Right.
last year just to satisfy
Yeah.
Old Home Day.
Okay. Well,
So-
they're actually doing here at 7:15, so
Perfect.
we're gonna ask them, are you
Right,
duplicating?
and I understand, if they're asking for money, it's not like a money grab, I'm just
Right.
being honest with you. So last year, I said, if you can do something to help, or anything to offset costs, would be appreciated, because it's not fair to the townspeople that I'm shot down the road, and I haven't been.
Yeah.
But if I was,
Yeah.
these type of events, it's like, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, I'm being compelled to do something in August that or September, that I'm now paying the price for in June.
Yeah, yeah.
and we appreciate it. What you might wanna do is just carve out what you want for P&M this year. If Old Home Day takes Old Home Day, you've got yourself covered.
Yeah, this is the last year, so it's a great cause, and we'll make it happen, and it's a lot easier for me to get people to come in for 5 o'clock in the morning for an hour than it is for me to get somebody to give up Labor Day all day for 12 hours. You know, so, the volunteerism seems to go a little easier for the 1 hour, and just, they can go back to bed afterwards.
It's much appreciated that the common is protected and the rest of the town.
By the way, the kids' race is only the common here, so that's easy peasy, you know, it's the,
I know.
it's the further out in town, and trolley everywhere they want an officer, so that somebody doesn't get injured.
Yeah. What else on your
Got
budget? Anybody, anything else that you wanna
No, sir.
highlight on your budget? Anybody got any questions about any line items?
I mean, I had a few, like the increase in the uniform allowance,
Oh, yeah.
that was quite a significant
It's
thing.
gonna look higher because he added a couple people and then that, I might not have taken that. There might be some new contractual stuff in there too.
It was 16 to 26, and it was all under, union, in the detail, it was under union.
cause that
Yeah,
would technically be.
uniform allowance, union members,
That would technically be 4 new bodies, cause from 24, it's level funded till 24, but in 26, you're gonna see 4 bodies, cause we didn't really technically budget. We added the 2 in,
it's a 60% increase, though, it just seems, okay, I mean,
yeah, I don't think I backed out what was in there for contractual, that hasn't been settled yet either. So that might not be a real dollar, cause that hasn't been settled on yet, so that number will probably move,
Up or down?
probably down,
Okay.
yeah,
That's why it's low.
yeah. There might be double costs in there somewhere, so we'll have to look at it.
okay, I mean, that was the one that jumped out on me,
Jumped
just a
out.
60% number,
It will be an
and,
increase, cause you'll see technically 4 bodies, cause the 2 that we got in October plus these 2 asks. So we'll budget that in there, but there might be a little bit, the number might not be accurate, cause the contract's not settled. So I think that number's right, so I'll look at it.
But we will get
Okay.
another go with this
Yeah.
budget at some point once it's typed up.
It's hard, cause I tried to get it as, don't wanna go into 26 with FY 24 numbers another 2 years old, but they haven't settled.
Yep.
Normally by now, we would have at least had an idea.
When is that
Are we close
contract?
to
They
settling?
would've settled that,
When does that
their union
contract end?
contract's not settled.
Well, no, their contract ended in June, so July
Oh, this
first,
past?
so, yeah, so we're in that period of catching up from
Negotiation.
July
But your
first.
FY 25 numbers are still FY 24, because we don't budget an increase in it,
Right, okay. Those 2-year deals?
3.
Typically 3,
That's
I mean,
what I
you
thought.
can do 2, there's nothing that obligates you, but I think the town typically likes to do 3 years.
Yep.
I don't think we're far apart, but
You
it's
haven't signed.
still not signed, so, I mean, I know they're having a union meeting, I believe this Thursday, so I think the contract, I'm assuming, is something they're discussing and different proposals, but
Yeah. Okay.
and then we didn't hit on capital, right?
No.
And the only thing that really scares me there is next year's stuff,
okay.
which is the paving and the,
Okay, so every year I ask for the paving, but I don't do it.
yeah,
And I say that because I gotta have a placeholder, because at some point, it doesn't make sense to me to pave that parking lot twice. If they're gonna expand the parking lot, or they're going to make more spots, at one time, certainly the pavement is, 30 years old, so it's got a lifespan, but we're gonna make it work. I've had it seal coated and things like that, but
Yeah.
ultimately, the problem we're having is just growing. We got so many details that require so many cars, and then the staff brings their cars in. So during the day, you think that we've got 50 cars out there, but they're all over the place, including other towns. And then at night, it looks a little different because half the cars aren't
Yeah.
in use, so.
yeah.
Good?
If you wanna go over the 5-year, you wanna go over that real quick? Is there
The-
something
the
that?
capital, for next
Yeah.
year,
Yeah.
I mean, that's really, there's not much out beyond,
Yeah, the cruisers, we got an updated
Yeah.
number, so we tried to go with a realistic number. I think we've been buying Chevys because Chevy was cheaper. We're probably leaning more towards Ford now because they're trying to be a little bit more competitive now. So at one time, a Chevy Tahoe was cheaper than a Ford. Now we're kind of leaning towards Ford because they're a little cheaper. Cruiser technology and stuff, trying to look here, Asher gear we've asked for, that's active shooter hostile event. They change the acronym all the time. What's it, alert now, Gary? Alert, Alice, there's different things, but that's basically, what we're trying to do is work with the fire department so that as we go in, there's shared gear and stuff like, there's 2 officers and 2 firefighters, and they go in and start, doing immediate first aid. So there's a level of equipment that you should have, so we're just trying to emulate what's the standard. Plate readers is, it's a one-time thing, but it's the latest technology, so whether I get it this year, or 2 years down the road, it'll still be something that we'd probably be looking for, but it's not ultimately,
Not mission
We haven't
critical.
gotten that yet?
what's
We
that?
didn't get that yet?
We have something called flock cameras.
Okay.
So you may have seen them, there's one over by the backside of Ted's, and there's one on 169. Those are plate readers, but not mounted on cruisers. So what they'll indicate is if we were looking for a vehicle, we'd know, okay, it goes by this place at 2 o'clock in the morning every morning. We've located vehicles that have hit and runs and taken off. We've identified the cars. Well, we at least now got an accurate, we had a partial plate, but now the technology caught it and has the full plate. It can do make and model. It can do things that, people don't always get the best description. It was a yellow car. Well, you can now search for yellow cars and, okay, here, we got one. Oh, that looks like it, so.
Yeah.
But they're permanently mounted. There's one in front of the town hall, in front of the library. Stafford Street, and then, North, yeah, so, we tried to put them in areas where we thought they could benefit us the most. Plate readers typically go on a cruiser, so
Yeah.
the problem with that is, you have to think about what if they get into an accident, and then you gotta wait and reinstall and stuff like that, so,
Yeah.
but, and rifle and optics is just an increase in the cost of, we're trying to put suppressors on things, we're trying to put a better optic on, so those are just costs of doing that, but that's why it's a one-time cost. If you look out in 27, the CAD, I know you were scared about the 500. The $300,000 is the record management system. So we have a product called IMC that's changed over the years, but that's what it's currently called. There's a latest iteration of the program, and it's cloud-based and does all this stuff. We wanted to throw that out further in case we go to regional. That might be something that's the standard, so that's where why pay for that if we're gonna go to that? So that's why we kinda pushed that out for the year. We'll see where we are, and you'll typically find that I keep shifting stuff over.
Yep, I think I do remember that from last year, like both of,
But I just kinda like to
Yeah.
throw it out there,
Yeah.
like, hey, if there's a need, or if there's a grant, that's what we're gonna focus on, those are some of our concerns. But
Yeah.
I'm not, like I said, we'll survive this winter with that parking lot, we'll survive next winter if you tell me, but but we're not gonna survive for 20 years.
Yeah.
But at some point, you're gonna have to pony up, but you don't have to now.
So that little poke in the side, hey, don't forget. Any other questions of the chief? No. There being none, chief, thank you very much for your
Appreciate
explanations.
your time.
yeah,
Thank
thank you.
you.
And for your time.
Thank you.
I know, I keep forgetting to look up at the screen, ladies, all right? Make sure that you got something. All right, so I'm assuming nobody's here from water and sewer,
Oh,
but,
Cheryl is.
oh, okay. I'm sorry, Cheryl.
You got new faces down there. Well, a new face.
Yeah, I know.
We could learn to give the chief an extra 15 minutes.
Okay, yeah, he
Alright.
talks a lot.
He
He's
does.
long-winded.
Hey, I'm still Yes,
improvement over James Pervin, am I not?
I wasn't chair back then, so I wouldn't know. Okay, water and sewer.
Hi.
We got some new members of the board, if you'd like to introduce yourself, and we got two of our members on the screen also.
My name is Cheryl Savivas. I started water sewer in June, so I'm a newbie. So be patient.
Well, welcome, and we don't bite.
So do you wanna start with sewer or water first?
Let's do water, because that'll be the easier.
Okay. So yeah, just walk us through your budget.
I believe everything is pretty much, gonna be the same as last year as far as the water and sewer. There really wasn't any changes.
Only difference is OPEB, they help
I was gonna say,
contribute less.
how-
There's really only one employee from water, because they used to split their costs
'Cause-
half and half.
Yeah,
And then after the water project was done and they spent more time in sewer, they only had one person that had retired and he was split, so we left it split. So they don't have any real employees
okay.
in there to worry about.
Because rarely do you see that number go down,
Yeah.
okay? And that,
Yeah, and
you say those
actually,
things jump out at you, okay, look, that's it.
they're closer to fully funded. If I have a question out to our actuary, it looks like sewer's already fully funded,
Mm-hmm,
so, which is good.
yeah, very good.
But that was the only change for them.
Okay, go
which
ahead, Cheryl.
I gave her that number.
Yep. So with water being pretty much level funded, then we'll go to the sewer.
Yeah, I don't have any questions on
Yeah.
water,
Yeah.
so.
Ladies, any questions on the water end of this? No? Christian, all set? Okay,
All
sewer,
that thing.
yeah, sewer?
Sewer is mainly the maintenance equipment expense, that went up. Everything else seems to be level funded except for the Veolia annual contract, because the contract went up 3.5%.
And yet the group health insurance took a big drop, okay? Same
It
reason?
was, I believe, it was funded when we went into 25 budget. I don't know if we had fully decided if there was 2 employees in there or 1, because there used to be 2. Then it dropped to 1, and it was somebody that had a family plan. And then now it's 1 employee in there, and
Okay,
it's just that if she picks up or has a single employee.
Yeah.
So that's what the cost difference is.
okay. And what else we got, Cheryl, big?
Other than that, everything else is pretty much
Yeah.
level funded, just
Yeah.
those 2 categories.
So the increase in the Viola North America annual contract, you said, I see 4.3% increase. And what is that for exactly?
That's the Veolia contract for, they maintain the plant.
Okay, maintain the plant. And then I do see a 12% increase in maintenance expenses.
Yes, that's due to the chart, the amount of money things are costing to keep the upgrades for the plant and the upcoming projects.
Okay.
Would upgrades mean the type of mechanism that adds a
Yes.
chemical to it?
Yes, parts and mechanisms and all that, yeah. Lab testings went up. Just everything has gone up.
Mm-hmm. What doesn't?
And then their general insurance wasn't budgeted for the correct amount for 25. We found that the insurance wasn't being, because we pay the insurance bill here,
Mhm.
so the insurance wasn't being offset to any of the water and sewer, or to, well, it's really, there's really no water, but anything down to sewer. So their pump stations, their building, all that is, their cars, that's all insured. So the cost was never being offset to down there, so it was never budgeted correctly, so we fixed that.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
So that's why you see a 71% increase. That's an accurate cost.
Oh,
It was a
okay,
little bit,
yep.
so it's, I think 25,000 this year, so I think I just put like either between 7 and 10% increase in there, just insurance.
yeah,
rates
so
have
it's
gone
basically a
high.
catch-up.
Yeah,
That's a catch-up.
that's just why there's a big difference there.
Okay. If everybody could do it like you do it, we'd be in golden.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions? Ladies at home, any questions?
Just on Veolia, is that like a 1-year contract, so we're gonna see like a 3.5% increase, or do we have a multi-year contract that we know we're gonna have an increase year over year?
Well, yeah, maybe,
A multi-year.
It's a multi-year contract?
Yeah,
Okay, so we knew we were going into that increase,
Yeah.
okay.
and they're weird, cause we started with them in November, so I think there's an extra factor in there for November of 25, cause the contract probably went up a little bit more too.
Right, yeah,
There's partial
okay.
extra in there for the increase for that. Sure, I talked about.
Okay. Anything else, people?
No.
Thank you very much.
All right,
For
thanks.
having you come out for such a short little visit.
Nice to meet you all.
Same to you. Oh, yeah, we should, yeah, sign it and pass it around. Okay, rec.
Hello.
Hello. We'll drag another chair up there for,
I'm just gonna sit back here.
okay. All right. So we've got some new board members this year. If you'd like to introduce yourself to all of our new board members, and we have 2 ladies up that are at home on the screen.
Hi, I'm Diane Doherty, Recreation Chairperson. Tonight we have Mike Lally and Kathleen Walker. They're going to discuss Old Home Day, so if you don't mind,
You do
I'll
budget
discuss
first.
the recreation part of it.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Basically, I just submitted the same budget from 2025. After I submitted it, I just realized on the services and supply area, the portable toilets is low for $1,500. We did add an extra portable toilet down at the middle school that we're paying for now because we opened up the pickleball court and tennis courts for the summer. So the prices have gone up, but it's all incorporated in our expenses anyways. It's just kind of a technical thing, Ashley, maybe
Yeah,
we can,
it should be 8,300.
yeah, total 83.
Right,
Yeah, yeah, I'm not asking for any more, it's just, I'm saying that
Just the way you allocate it.
the way, yeah, the way it's allocated.
Gotcha.
So I can fix that
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah,
before it
I'll fix
gets
it.
to time.
When we
Yeah.
get to I'll fix it.
Basically, that's it.
Memorial Day, you budget $100, what?
Memorial Day Committee has not, I don't know if it's an existing committee, but they've never,
That number has been in there since I started.
It's been in there.
No one's ever touched it.
yeah, if there's money in there, if anybody needs it for any type of services, but it really, no one has come before the Recreation Commission saying would
You
like
wanna
it.
do a Memorial Day program, we need some,
Yeah, no one
Okay.
has, so.
okay. I mean, is that something, Ashley, we should just,
I could take it out, yeah.
we
We've
can-
never-
We'll
we've
keep the
never used
100.
it. Yeah, right. We've never used it.
Every little bit helps.
You want the money, you just want the line item on your budget.
I don't want to take
Listening
it
to the
away from
chief
the
out
road.
there too many times, okay?
Yeah,
Okay,
yep.
right, yeah, otherwise you've got a pretty simple budget.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything changes, it'll
Yeah.
go through Ashley in the future, yeah. Yes,
Okay,
okay.
so now it's Old Home Day.
Now, Old Home Day.
Good
Kathleen, you want
evening,
to come up?
Mr. Knossi
How you doing, Mike?
and members of the board. It's good to be back.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Kathleen,
Hi.
you have met
I'm
Kathleen.
just-
Yes, we have.
I'm just here for a very simple budget of 25 grand.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a long time in the offing. We've had no increments over the years, even though I respect and appreciate your endeavours and your help all through the years.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that continues in a very positive way tonight.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's see you explain, what is the 25 gonna pay for? What was your thought process, and how did you arrive at that number?
Well, last year, the expenses for Old Home Day came to 27,800.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought if I came in a little bit under it,
But Mike, you gotta remember, when the rest of us don't know where the 27 went, okay,
well, I can run it down a little bit.
give us an overview.
The pyrotechnics for the fireworks was 2,000. Michael's Party Rentals, 1,380. New England equipment, 1,770. Raymond and the Reindeers, 1,200. Amazon, 106. Trevor, the gamesman, 900. Pyrotechnics, 9,250, and that's going up all the time.
So
I
the
think-
two pyrotechnics is we have to pay a deposit to hold fireworks, and then once they happen, we send the check out for the rest of them. So it's really,
11,000.
yeah, a little
No,
over
it's-
a grand.
it's-
So
Nine.
that's
Looks
part of
fine.
it. Do you want me to continue the whole list?
Yes,
All right. Gregory Kojolan, Midtown Horns, 2,000. Michael's Party Rentals, 1,399. David's Dixie Band, 850. Larry Boria was 650. Worcester Fire Brigade Pipes and Drums, 1,000. Fontaine Painting and Embroidery, 460. Michael Cunningham, 360. And the next one that's of any significance would be Amazon for 555. And Art Media, 1,480, and All-Star Trophies and Awards, 897, which came to 27,000.
Okay. How would you typically raise that 27,000? We didn't give you 27,000 last year, so you got it by private donation?
Private donations, well, over the years, I've built up a liaison with the various groups, but it's a constant battle.
He has to play golf with all of them.
And
What a burden, Kathleen, for him. Poor guy.
it just isn't fair to put that kind of burden, because next week, I'm going to be 87.
Mhm.
That's getting to be, the wrong side of the coin for me. But that said, they haven't learned how to
I'm catching up. Next week I'll be 70. I'm catching up to you, okay?
they haven't learned to respect their elders yet at the golf course, so I have to take it to them. So I have to keep going to the gym and all that kind of stuff.
He's gonna be one of the few guys that can actually shoot his age. So is it your thought that you would, if you were to get the money from the town, that you would not have to go out and private fundraise, or do you
I
continue?
would still go out and try and build up a backing for all our endeavours and keep building, and there's work to be done. And I've been connecting with Matt Power, and we're looking, a new banner has to be made and all kinds of stuff, and we are working together as a team. I met him just this past year. We actually became friends.
Mhm,
And once I find a new friend, I like to work with them.
mhm. Okay.
But anyway, that's roughly the outline.
Mhm.
And it's getting more difficult to get the funding. I've managed to establish over the last 15 years or whatever, some kind of a continuity with some of them. But then you never know.
Mhm.
And it doesn't take much of a change to get us behind the 8 ball. And it would be nice to be able to go out. We have a town here that can afford to look after its citizens who come back to celebrate. And it would be nice to be able to go out at the beginning of the year and get what we want and give a nice presentation for the town on Old Home Day
Mhm.
and kind of up the ante rather than begging. And people are getting tired of it.
Mhm.
And,
If we were to find a way to increase your funding from, and I've got your number in the back of my head, if we were to go like 18,000 and you had to raise another 7,
yeah.
okay? Would you see yourself having the ability to do something like that?
Well, you could have made it 20. Yeah, I could come up with
I
a
picked
balance.
18 for a reason, Mike, okay?
Okay,
But just as an example,
Yeah.
and that's just an arbitrary number, but, I
Yeah.
mean, you're not going to stop
no,
fundraising,
not at all.
is my
I mean,
question,
we
okay?
have when we started, Kathleen and I, we had maybe 4 or 5 people on the board. I mean, our
Mm.
volunteers. Now we're up to
20.
20, and it's a gradual build-up.
Mhm.
And if we had a backup from the town to continue this, because it's, we've got to get away from the begging side of it,
Mhm.
and to say, this is our town, this is what we're doing, this is what we're presenting, and be able to go out and think we can do that, it would free us up in dealing with the people.
Mhm.
So that's kind of my request.
Mhm. Okay, well, that's a reasonable request. How about any questions? Ladies at home, any questions of Mike or Kathleen?
I do, and I apologize because I stepped away for a moment, so you might have covered it. I'd love, if it's available, a balance sheet of the event, just to understand what we have for expenses versus donations, and just to help better support the event altogether. Because I know that expenses are rising, and I'm fully appreciative of that, and police detail we talked about. So if there's just a better breakdown, so we can understand
Yeah.
the expenses versus the money that we're bringing in.
If we can get this piece of paper from Mike and we can make a copy, Christian, I think that's what you're looking for is,
Yeah, we'll be able to get you.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
If
Yeah.
not, I can send you what came out last year, cause I think I would've probably gave most of that to
Yeah.
their treasurer,
Yeah,
between her giving me the bills and us balancing
Yeah.
together.
Now, so am I under the assumption they have their own checking account, this committee has its own? No,
It's
it all comes
it's
through
all in the
us?
town's funds, yeah.
So when we collect money, Mike goes out and gets $500 from a company, he
Yeah.
turns it over to the town.
Correct, it sits in a
And every-
donation
okay.
fund, yeah.
So there is a check and balance system here of
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
when people are,
yeah.
okay.
Hmm.
All right.
We just owe more checks, that's all.
What if, for instance, we do a $25,000 budget, and then we get 20,000 in donations? Is there a spending budget for it, or could we just all of a sudden up the spending to 40,000?
that would be up to the committee.
Right. Do you think we should have a spending budget? If we're gonna fund
Well-
it for 20?
Yeah, and see, that's probably the caveat. I don't think that we can conditionally budget them and say, well, we'll do, up to
Right.
20 unless they raise, and then we're back. I don't think it works that way. But that's why I was more thinking, if we find a number in
Supplement.
between, okay?
Yes.
This,
Thank you.
it might be easier for them to raise 10 as opposed
Yes.
to 25 is where I was kind of going with this.
Yeah.
And then we can cover other expenses that we know are associated with,
The town.
with the town, okay?
Yeah.
So it's a starting point. You've given us a starting point.
Yeah. And I'll start on whatever tea you want.
Mm-hmm.
I know you mentioned the new banner, but are there other things that you specifically need, like additionally either want to do for Old Home Day or need to do that need to be redone or anything like that?
Well, not so much need, but as we get new members, they come in with new ideas.
Yep.
And there's a lot of interest in expanding the day down through down the street through the Arts and Activity Center. So we could put some events down there. We could put some events down behind the library. And we would like to have a bigger parade, for instance, with more bands. I think we have 3 bands right now. The bands cost money. Some of them come for free, but we have to pay their transportation and their costs. And then we have bands during the day too. And then we have the fireworks.
Yeah, which is the big.
And we have a
expense.
band there. Yeah, and the fireworks go up constantly.
Yeah.
So,
That's what fireworks do.
true. And somebody talked to me this year about doing something with drones, where we can do a display that's, doesn't make any sound, and it's got drones. Andrew probably knows, he knows everything.
Yeah, click on any YouTube video about drones and they'll show you
Yeah,
Kathleen exactly
yeah.
what they're talking about. They send 1,000 up and they make displays.
So we get new members and they come up with new ideas, and we wanna constantly evolve so that it gets bigger, but we keep it old fashioned at the same time, which is a bit of a challenge, cause it's I think this is our 128th year. So it's
Okay.
been going on that long. I mean, we're not that old, but
Well, he is.
yes.
Do you have somebody coming up through the ranks to take your place, Mike?
Oh, I
You,
don't know.
you teaching people how to
We're trying to get,
solicit and,
yeah, we're trying to get backups to each
Yeah.
role that we have,
okay.
Yeah.
so.
And I'm just being, I came in without any golf clubs in my hand, otherwise you wouldn't talk to me like this.
I tell you, it's gonna come back and haunt me. Any other questions of the two of them? I think we got a pretty good understanding of what you're looking for.
Great.
Right.
Thank you. And I would say that we have built a great morale group that we're working with, and Kathleen uses the whip quite effectively. So we keep going and we keep building. And if we had the funding to back us, we'd be a bit more brazen about taking chances and doing things.
Well, I will tell you that when anybody asks me about living in Charlton, one of the first things I mention is we still live in a town that shuts down Main Street to have a parade. And there aren't too many towns that do that. And
That's
that's
great.
really a good tradition.
Yeah, it's a great committee, really.
So, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you,
All right.
folks.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Nice seeing you.
Yeah, I'm just gonna write Zoom on, you guys will sign this maybe the next time or something. I just wrote Zoom and initialed it, so everybody will know that you attended Zoom.
I've done it, I think via email, given
Oh.
my approval, and that was.
All right, we'll let Ashley take care of that.
Well, we're just making a
Okay.
note for
Okay. So Brian, that's basically how we run hearings. Okay. They come in, they walk us through their budgets, ask them questions in advance, you know, and try and get some good answers.
Oh, yeah, you did.
What, Jeremy?
No, are they still coming up? Are we going over
No,
additional?
we're done with hearings now.
Oh, is there
That's
any-
And now, yes.
Okay, they
Yeah,
come.
yeah, now Andrew and Ashley will come up and we'll keep going with them.
There's the words in there.
I didn't know if we were done. I didn't.
No, he's just, he could have given us a PowerPoint presentation on that, and he said, you know what, I won't make you sit through it.
That's this one.
How you feeling, Christian? Christian,
So I've been sick for 18 days and counting, and my little guy went down with me.
you got this viral thing, this viral intestinal thing going around?
Yeah, yep, look at my little buddy.
Hey, there's a lot worse things than spending time with mom, guy, all right?
I know, he just finished watching a movie, so I'm gonna go on mute and yell at him to go take a shower.
Okay.
Mom voice.
All right, next on the agenda, as we always do, an update from the finance director and the town administrator.
Do you wanna update?
What's
them
our
on
update?
Town meeting? I haven't said anything about it yet.
Yeah, so we had a citizens petition be submitted to consider the changing the town clerk's position to, or from elected to appointed. So the logistics around that, the law to change it is that you have to have you have to have a town meeting at least 60 days prior to an annual town election. It doesn't say how far out, from beyond that it can be, but it needs to be at least 60 days before. I guess there was a grassroots citizens campaign to force collect the 200 signatures to force a town meeting. That town meeting is gonna be held on Tuesday, February 18th at 7 o'clock. So we've booked that time. So that'll be single warrant item, that night.
Does she have enough money in her budget to hold another town meeting?
It shouldn't
believe-
cost us that much money, just a couple
For-
hours
for-
for, yeah.
Okay.
If that,
She should be
couple
able to
$100
cover it.
bucks, yeah,
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
just the people she needs to check in.
right.
So,
Yeah.
So it'd be, she's salary, so she won't count her, and then she'll probably have either 2 or 3. So there's probably 2 girls in her office and maybe a third.
Mhm.
So,
Okay.
they could either just flex their hours for the week or
Mhm.
it's not, it won't be much.
Yep.
And then PD usually just swings by on shift, so he doesn't usually run detail there.
Yep.
So, and Chief's usually there, just in case, but I don't think
don't
we.
foresee any financial issues with it.
Yeah,
Yep.
just one article, quick, hopefully.
Yeah.
Good. Good.
So,
So I don't
That one came
know,
out of the blue, I didn't,
yeah,
but I did watch the selectmen's meeting, so if you guys didn't watch the selectmen's meeting, okay, they said, we're gonna talk about the budget, right? So I fast forwarded to get to the question about the budget, listened to that all of 45 seconds of discussion
Yep.
on the budget, and then they moved on, right?
and Andrew had given them this nice presentation.
well, at least I didn't waste the time of going through it, but printed it out for you guys to read on your own time,
Yeah,
so.
but in a nutshell, they prioritized it as their number one goal is, public safety employees, followed by Department of Public Works employees, followed by everybody else. That's where,
Yeah, that, public safety, which included public works, and then school, and then everybody else.
oh, you're right, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, they did throw
Yeah.
school in. I was just talking about our operating
Yeah.
budget, but.
Yeah.
But that's where they came down. That's where they wanna see us, they wanna see their priorities, all right?
Yeah, and I
Big
think Bill had
shout
said
out.
last night he's not super keen on adding bodies unless it's absolutely necessary.
Who's that?
Bill.
Bill.
Yeah.
Bill is never key on
Yeah.
adding bodies unless it's absolutely.
Yeah, he said, and then I think he did say, that's when he said public safety first,
Mm-hmm.
then we'll support school asks, and then if
Not-
anybody else asks, they're
Not,
after all
not to
that.
jump the gun, but is fire going to be looking for more
Yes.
bodies?
One. Well,
Well,
1.5. The 0.5 person
Yeah.
was technically in the budget, because the person retired, so we never funded it for FY '25, so it's technically a new ask, but not a new ask, if that makes
Okay.
sense. So one real new person, and then
Yeah.
one backfill-ish person.
Okay. And is Kurt still looking for somebody down
He
here?
wants to
So
bump
Are
his
they-
person to,
Is there talk about a floater again?
no, he
No.
wants to bump his person to full-time, his part-time person to full-time.
Yeah.
Because his goal was always to have a full-time person in there.
Right.
But he settled for the part-time, but they're really busy, so he could really use a full-time, he said.
What other department do you have a feeling is gonna be looking for
Well,
somebody?
we already
Well,
got
I have,
everyone's
if you,
asks.
if you switch to page 2 of your nice little.
It's laid out in there.
Oh,
So
well,
we
let's justify Andrew's work here, guys, okay, and
We
look
got
at,
everyone's ask already.
Yeah, so we did outline all the personnel requests that we received so far. Ashley and I were talking before. You know, with recreation, that was one thing that we didn't have a specific ask for, but we're kind of evaluating. You know, right now, it's essentially, I think since it was held back with conservation and ZBA office, it hasn't
Yeah.
really had a home or
Right.
administrative staff.
It used to sit with conservation for however long, and then it was with the ZBA assistant that was here part-time. She also did part-time recreation, and when I say part-time, I mean like very part-time.
Yeah.
Couple hours for recreation, then like a couple hours for ZBA every week. And then since that person left, there's been nobody for either seat.
For recreation.
Yeah, but now we found someone to fill ZBA internally,
Mhm.
added it to their job duties, and then, but recreation's kinda left. So they're
Mhm.
really the only department that gets a budget that doesn't have part-time, full-time, anything, and no it's just the commission.
Yeah.
It's like
So-
Diane Doherty is the sole person that runs that whole entire budget. And if she ever left, I don't know
Right.
what
So,
happened.
Ashley, hey, can I ask a question about that?
yes, go ahead, Jamie.
Thanks. So what, is there a way to do an analysis to see if we hired staff to actually have a full-time person in the rec department that could run programs and camps, that if they could be self-sufficient, and how many years it would take for the funds that they collect for the camps and the programs to pay for themselves? Because I know other communities that do that, and they actually make money to give back to the community, supplement the budget, and pay for their own department.
something we can definitely look into.
Yeah.
I think, you know, when we're just looking at it off the jump, you know, our initial thought was, you know, talking to Nick down at Highway, he felt that they might have some capacity down there with their existing staff to potentially take that on, but, you know, with the consideration that it may include a pay increase to take on the additional duties. That was at least the kind of the first avenue that we looked at, but, you know, we could look at to see what the potential would be of creating a,
You can run it as an enterprise fund. Yeah.
right, and I think it's just a kind of a logistics question as to, you know, I always struggle with saying we're gonna start a department with a staff of one, and how much, and how effective are they going to be, or do we have to consider a budget of, you know, a recreation director with, you know, support staff, and are they, you know, what program are they gonna be able to come up with, include, that is gonna generate the revenue to offset that?
Right.
So I think that that's just something that's gonna have to be considered.
The community to look at is Northborough. I mean, now their department is big. Now they have a director and I think a full-time admin and maybe even like a part-time admin, but they run a summer camp and they sell out the day or two that they put it up. I mean, it is a well thought out place to be, and I don't know the DPW, so I don't wanna cut anything up there, but that is not kind of what I'm putting out there. This is a staff that would be directly to put out programs.
Right.
And, you know, to be putting, we have a lot of kids that are interested in science, so we're gonna have a science program come in during February break, and we're gonna have, space camp in April or whatever. I just think there's families that would be very interested in that, and it is an underutilized kind of part of where we could go.
Yeah, Andrew and I were just thinking to try to get recreation help now, if we weren't ready to run that way, if we could at least supplement something just to get them an admin, someone that keeps track of their budget, somebody that pays their bills, somebody that has because their paperwork is down there. Diane's been housing her paperwork down there, but somebody that has access to like everything, because right now Diane does it all. Somebody that could call and like schedule, hey, this was ruined, somebody destroyed the playground, there was vandalism down at the playground, or the pitcher's field needs to be fixed. Just like that stuff that Diane's doing now, somebody to help her do that. Because I believe she's leaving the end of this election year. So if she doesn't come back on, it's somebody going to do that now. And if no one does that, who does it?
Mainly a primary point of contact for like the rec leagues that use the municipal fields that can be in charge of scheduling of the fields, or
Right,
if
pickleball.
there is a issue with the fields, that's being relayed to a designated individual. That's kind of what our initial thought was
Yeah.
with trying to put something into the DPW budget to assist with rec.
Yeah.
So,
But
but
that-
that isn't
Honestly,
reflected here.
Jamie, but I think we have so much work to do just collaborating between the rec department and our youth leagues, because they're so, just volunteer run. Like, if there's better coordination between the town and the leagues, that's a great start.
Yeah. Yeah, I could look into see how Northborough started out, reach out
But
to their
I
accountant.
am 100% on board with all of that, and I think that that's what the person that I would be thinking of would do. But I think that it would be revenue generating, and so therefore we wouldn't have to kind of figure out where we're going to come up with that money.
Right.
It would be through these programs and camps. It pays for itself and then some.
Right.
And I get that might be and then some 3 years down the road, but I think that this is something that we shouldn't lose. And my kids are probably not too far off from being too old to utilize it, but there's tons of kids that would, families that would utilize it.
Yeah.
And I think it would be a shame not to look at it.
Yeah, I'll reach out to the Northborough accountant and find out how they started it.
And the rec director there, I'm sure would be happy to come in and even do a presentation for you. She's done that for other towns.
All right.
Thanks, Jamie. Let's see, just going through kind of the operational considerations here. So, as we're kind of developing this out, we tried to realize that we still have some ancillary growth from, the Amazon and some of the things that have been in the pipeline. But as we're kind of like looking out long-term, there's not a lot that's still kind of like in that development pipeline. We know that the 241 Sturbridge Road project is still ongoing. When that, does start construction, we should see a jump from that. But I think, we have to continue to keep using conservative projections with our revenue growth and try to, I was talking to Ashley earlier, and it's like we can't look at the last 5 years and expect that that's going to be a projection of our next 5 years. I think we have to look 5 years before that and expect that may be our next 5 years moving forward. So,
We have to go back to normal.
Yeah.
This is abnormal.
Yeah, so even if at the end of the day, we put all these personnel and budgetary requests in, we may this year still have an excess. But if we did that, I think we're going to be putting ourselves in a very difficult position 2 to 3 years down the road, especially as we try to plan for, the fire station project and the additional staffing needed to do that. And every other, growth consideration that comes to additional demands and everything like that. I mean, taxes are meant to offset the expenses needed to run the government, and it's not just a free check that comes to us. It's usually you're getting that money because there's a need that you're going to need to fill. It's just the idea of identifying what the need is.
Right.
So,
Yep.
trying to just preach that we're going to be conservative as we keep moving these budgets forward. With Board of Health, I know they're still going to come in, but they have I know a year and a half ago for capital, they had come in and it was about $300,000. They had come and done an article for MCP and solid waste. Right now, that money is projected to last them through the end of this fiscal year. So going into next year's next year, well, and even next year's capital, I
Budget.
think a capital consideration that we might do in the spring is actually look to appropriate about $381,000 from free cash to kind of regenerate that reserve and allow them to continue that, that solid waste remediation work. This year we'll have the first debt service on that new fire station that we're gonna be projecting.
This coming fiscal year.
This, in
Yeah,
FY
26.
'26, it is
Yeah.
not full, but we're going to have to start borrowing, soon. So a year from now, we're gonna have to start paying that. It's not gonna be the full borrowing, that will probably be the fiscal year after that. There is,
Just out of curiosity, what will be, on a full year basis, what will be the annual cost of that bond? Any
approximately,
idea?
approximately $1 million.
I have to double check, but that's
$1
probably
million
not,
a year.
probably around there,
And that's an $18 million project.
yeah.
Right, right. So, as you know, there's a portion of that's within the levy and a portion of it
That's
that's
outside,
outside the levy.
That's right, yeah, 15 million is the actual,
Excluded
Yeah.
amount.
Right.
So of that.
16 under,
Yeah.
13 under, 3 out. Right, 13 under the, or no, 13 outside the levy limit, 3 inside the levy limit.
right. So, Brian,
Yeah.
they came up with an $18 million price tag, and these two came up with an idea that they could find 3 million of it about within our operating
Yeah, it's a little bit more,
cost
but
schedule,
yeah,
and only have to borrow the balance. So that's where they're headed with this.
yeah.
Yep. So essentially, as we're looking right now, it's about $320,000 in next year's budget is gonna be for inside the levy cost between principal and interest. And then from the excluded cost, we'll only have an interest payment, and that'll be about $487,000 in interest, and which actually tailors in pretty well with the debt that's falling off of exclusion.
Right.
Because it almost matches it exactly. So we really timed it right.
Yep.
So it will go up from there, but we're not gonna see this kind of like a fiscal year dip and then a shock where, essentially you have old debt that falls off and then a tax bill that goes, oh, look, it
Right.
went up, but it didn't go up so much, and then the next year it goes
It goes back
up.
up, right.
It's gonna be very very normalized as that substation gets onto the rolls. So I think we really timed it good, the way everything's kind of playing out. On top of that, we also have projected debt service on the landfill cap. I think, by the end of '26, we should start seeing some progress on that, so we think that in, potentially '25, we could see some borrowing on it. We're gonna just put a placeholder in it for right now. If that project doesn't look like it's gonna take off till after June 30th, we'll probably pull that back out, because then you'll have another year to be able
Right.
to sit on it.
And I think if we don't have the landfill cap, you'll probably have an engine in there
Mhm.
for borrowing costs.
Fire and police, or fire and DPW union contracts, those are the next two up, so you'll see with the department head request sheet, fire, DPW, and police all are not in their respective budgets. Right now, they're in a budget line that's under general gov, so general government total will look a little bit more than what it should be at the end of the day, but again, we're just holding that in the budget. We don't have any numbers right now on DCRSD, or Baypath. That won't even be, they won't even be able to calculate that until the governor releases her numbers.
Yep.
That's usually sometime within the next week. Usually maybe a week or two after that, we'll get that number. We've just held a placeholder right now of 8%. That's been the consensus average over the last 5 years, but, as we know, last year was 10?
Right.
Yeah, 10%. So, we know that there's another half of this budget that needs to be funded by another town. That kind of drives the discussion on it. So we'll start with the number that we get in the next 2 weeks and go from there. Obviously, labor market, attrition, competitive wages, we always keep an eye on that. Really.
Just to touch quickly on Reg, so we've had to deal with differentials and equalities over the last couple of years of meeting certain goals. That's all done, right? We're up to snuff with everybody. You know what I'm talking about? Remember?
For salary, for.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
salaries.
Yeah,
We'd
yeah,
have
yeah.
to say, oh, we gotta increase this one by 4 to bring it up to.
Yeah.
We're
No.
done with all of that stuff.
Right.
Yes.
So now everyone's on the pay scale. I think everyone that we have looked at.
We got everybody onto a pay
Correctly,
scale.
yeah.
There was a union that dissolved, we got them into the pay scale. After everybody got into the pay scale, we had another outside firm do a comparative analysis to all of our comparative towns. We brought everybody up to exactly where they need to be.
Right.
This year, there should be nothing
Okay.
Right.
additional, other than just cost of living adjustment. And it's
Right.
kind of
Or
like,
union
that's a
contracts,
further
yeah.
discussion we have to talk about. You know, we kind of have some play numbers in here. And I think we want to talk too about long-term on cost of living adjustment, creating some policy around non-contractuals. Because you know, we know that the contractual union, or unions, they get their opportunity to come to the table and price out their contracts for 3 years. And the non-unions are kind of just at the discretion of finance committee, board of
Yeah,
selectmen,
which tends to
us.
say, well, if we only gave them 2%, we're only gonna give them 2%.
Right.
Right.
But that's kind of not what's happening, because the unions come in and say, well, we want 10%, or we want 15%, or this person's got 20%, so we want.
Right.
But they have a chance to come and
Right.
speak their voice and say, well, everyone else is getting this competitively, and then the non-unions don't. And we used to have what was called, I think, the sunset clause, where we got an average, all the non-unions got an average of what the unions were getting, so it was fair, because would get an average of whatever all the union increases were that year. That's, I don't know, ended however many years ago.
5 years ago.
Yeah. So maybe we were thinking, maybe we just go back to that and make it a policy, and the non-unions just get an average of whatever all the unions got, to try to make it fair. Give them, it's not just finance committee or the board of selectmen or whoever dictating, it would just be something that would make it an average, it's fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's something that we've been talking about, see what the cost of that would be.
Yeah,
Yep.
try to project it out long
Right.
term.
And then we'll make a policy on it, and
Non-union. Yep.
instead of it was one time, or it was a 3-year thing and then it was done, do we just make that a policy
Yeah,
going
without a
forward?
policy, it becomes a little arbitrary.
Right.
You know, Council on Aging, they have some requests, I'll allow them to come in here and explain their requests, but, you know, they've had some operational changes that they like to see reflected in the budget. Insurance and retirement costs, always kind of like that kicker that, you know, just hurts a little bit more on the side. I think, would Medicare go up 20%?
Yeah, our
Um,
Medicare insurance went really high, so our supplemental to Medicare went up really high for all the retirees, January 1st. They had a 25% increase alone on the cost that Blue Cross was kicking back to our trust, because we belong to that trust for insurance, right? So it was a 25% increase alone just to that, and then it ended up averaging, I wanna say it was close to a 20% increase alone to their supplemental Medicare plan. That started January 1st for all of our retirees, so we saw that. And Andrew, the HR director, Lynn and I all sat down and we're like, okay, well, if they just got that big of an increase, what is our healthcare, what is the town employee healthcare cost gonna look like come May? Or we'll know in April.
Yeah.
So,
So right now, we have about a 10%
Yeah.
hold in that line right now, just just before we have the rate
Right.
increase.
Yep.
Just to see what happens with that. But
Right.
we've kind of heard numbers all over the board from, you know, 6% to 15%
Yeah.
on health insurance.
and
so.
what's nice is that the trust usually comes in under, so the GIC is the big insurance for the state, that's what the state belongs to. They hold a lot of the members and towns in the state, and the state employees belong to that insurance. That's like one of the biggest insurance agencies or trusts in the state of Massachusetts. They're usually like what everyone goes by the average benchmark, and we usually always come in underneath them. So,
Okay.
they're usually, they try to be as conservative as possible, but, I mean, healthcare drives it, so.
Yeah.
We're hoping it's not a double-digit increase, but,
Fingers crossed. So with all of the personnel requests that we got from all the departments, less the one that we just talked about before, you know, with salary and benefit costs, you're talking about a net impact of about $514,000. If you were to actually say, oh, we can afford it, we'll just put it in the budget. So that's why I think we really need to be, you know, not just from the point, can we afford it, yes or no, it's, do we need it, does it impact our long-term financial?
If I could just go back
Projection.
to the Council on Aging line item, just real quick. So they're here, right?
Yeah.
They-
Correct.
And I'm looking at them having their own, okay? If they had their own building, do they pay for heat, light, power, or does that get
It's-
absorbed into the town's?
It's gonna get absorbed into the town
Right.
budget,
the
cause that's
town?
where
Because
everybody,
right now, the town pays for heat, light,
everybody
power,
else,
right?
right,
So even if they had a standalone building, the
Correct.
town still, okay.
yeah, cause
Right.
all the other standalone buildings still fall under,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
We've
I'm
been
just wondering
working-
how the mechanics of that work.
And we've been working more now that we have a facilities director of trying to centralize a lot of the expenses that relate to municipal facilities, because it has over the years been kind of like stagnated with
Everyone's
within
budget.
operational
Yeah.
budgets
Right.
of like, pest management, HVAC, repairs and stuff like that. We really are trying to take a look at what our true expenses are, try to bring them all under a singular, like, budgetary line, and then try to maybe procure a single,
yeah, single contract.
contractor
form,
that's gonna be responsible for
Right.
all the buildings
Right.
versus each one kind of having their own.
Trying to save some
So-
money,
Electricity is paid by the town for all of our buildings. So
Right.
you don't really see in the police budget
right.
the cost of electricity
Right.
for the
Correct.
police
We
station.
central purchase
Okay,
that.
that's why,
Yeah.
because it's all a
Right.
consolidated.
The only thing that's in their budget is the cost to maintain their building, so the generator maintenance, pest control, that is all in their budgets. HVAC, yep, so the only thing that's not in there, the phone system, 911 is in there, in police, but the phone system, so like the phones are on everyone's desk, those are centralized, and, their electric is centralized and their heat is
Water,
centralized,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I think they pay for their own water bills, if there's
And we're gonna be
water in
looking
any
to
of the
centralize
buildings.
that going
Yeah.
into next year.
Yeah,
Under whose control?
So what we'll be looking to do is for the water bills that all come in is right now that there's been a line under, my budget named environmental. And we're gonna look at moving that into a separate line for water expense for municipal buildings. And transferring that
Yeah.
cost line for that purpose.
Mhm.
so it should all fall under we've moved a lot into that municipal offices account. If you look, it's in the general government section of the budget. But we moved a lot, like the phone bill sits in there now. We're gonna work on moving the generator maintenance into there, which I think we did that already, cause we got the cost for that, so that's in there. But we're gonna try to look at as much as we can, consolidate under one, and then pull it out of everyone's budgets.
Mhm.
To try to leave it under one, and then have one person handle it all. And then hopefully just get one person in here fixing everyone's generator. And then hoping to save money rather than having 3 generator services in here.
Right.
We're paying 3 different companies to try to pay just one and maybe save some money.
Well, we had talked about that a couple of years ago when we were discussing a facilities manager.
Right,
And we were
right.
trying to, you remember that argument, Christian, okay? Would one person basically recoup their own costs by
Right.
watching all the buildings?
Right.
okay?
Yeah.
And then it's been, I think, helpful for the other departments and for us to know what really is on fire in people's building, like what's the biggest need. So I've been working on that too.
Yeah, it's difficult when you have the police chief and the library director both in front of you saying that my roof is caving in, I need it now. When I don't have, a specified facilities person who's saying, the police roof is the top priority because it's in the worst shape and the library roof can come second.
Right.
And that's kind of what we were trying to get beyond, is, single point of contact,
But
that's
that is
responsible
not
for this.
even under the personnel requests over here.
Right, we've already addressed that.
Yeah.
We did address that last year, and now
Yeah.
they hit the ground running and they're moving forward, so.
All right,
Yeah.
yeah.
We combined it in with cemeteries.
all right.
Yep.
And I'm gonna look closer to make sure I understand where that is.
Yeah, so it sits in the cemetery budget, so if you look at the cemetery line,
Cemetery.
yeah. He took on the role of facilities, so he's been doing cemetery and facilities, and then we had hired another laborer to replace him in the field. So he's got cause he was laboring, so he has 2 laborers out there now, and then he's more in the office now handling the facilities, and then he also handles the
Yeah.
cemeteries. Trying to make it more DPW-ish.
Yep.
So
All right.
DPW
trying to
handles
figure out
highway, snow, yeah.
Yeah, 2 different departments might be paying for the
Right.
same thing. I mean, we had that situation here. He'd like $7,000 for police for Old Home Day, and they want
Right.
25.
Right, but
okay?
the police aren't even a thought in them because they don't pay a bill right now because he does it and eats it in his
Right.
budget.
Right.
So that's not even a thought to them because it's not in their expenses.
Yeah, if you go back 5 years before post, they could employ intermittent and volunteer on-call police officers.
Right.
Since post was adopted, they can't, that's not an
Auxil-
option
yeah, the
anymore. You
auxiliary
can't have a sworn,
officers.
you can't have sworn auxiliary officers. So that's gone away, and now he's gotta pay for every person that comes in for.
Yeah, Post has made it really hard for them to do stuff now. Was we were able to have, yeah, like you said, special police officers or auxiliary police officers, and we bring them in, not union, so you can bring them in a lot lower. Some of them would volunteer their time because they enjoy doing it. It's harder to do that now when you have all the union employees, and you can't employ any of them anymore.
Yep.
So they have to be either hired full-time under a department or,
Yep.
yeah, or they're just a civilian.
That changed a lot.
Speaking
Yeah.
of public versus private, have we heard anything from, on the senior center proposal?
I haven't heard anything.
I figured no news is good news.
Waiting with bated breath.
Yeah. What else in this packet would you like to review, Andrew?
Just really quick,
Revenue
so we
project?
gave you kind of a quick overview revenue projection here. Not much will really change with this. Obviously, we can kind of work with estimated local receipts and stuff like that, but, I think right now, if you go to the summary page at the end, you'll see we're still working with a net, positive. We're not trying to massage a deficit here. So at least from that perspective, we're starting from a very strong foundation here with this budget. Sorry. Just on the trends.
Yeah, you're right. Well, we will not see that again.
Well,
Right? Unless
right
some-
now, I'm just kind of give us that blip in time as to where we are, like really with the excess levy capacity. And I think it's just kind of like a, part of the story here when you look at to say, hey, last year we closed, $1 million back to the taxpayers that we didn't tax in excess levy capacity. Essentially, we have the license to tax that we could have taxed $1 million more, and we did not.
Right.
Now, on top of that, we put a healthy amount into capital stabilization. We funded the 2 additional positions with the police.
Put more into OPEB.
Put more in OPEB. And now, if you turn and you look into this year, add over $800,000 in your 2.5% increase. We're right now using a conservative number of $800,000 for new growth. And with the budget that's being provided with all the requests, you have an excess levy capacity of $600,000. Now, it's great for this year. I don't see that as being a good thing for next year if we
Right.
don't really go through with this.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, and I just kind of put on here too, kind of a new slide. I put together the average tax bill by class. And typically you'll see like the average tax bill for your residential value, and that's kind of the orange line. You can see it's, it increases over time. We all kind of know that's been pretty steady. The only real kind of blip in that was in 2019 when the town passed an override. But I overlaid that with commercial, industrial, and personal property to just kind of show you guys how that industrial growth really has taken off over time of supplementing the kind of that residential burden. And I think that, I've kind of showed it in pie charts before, but I think when you put it in this line chart and you see how much that's taken off, basically this is the total number of parcels that we have categorized as industrial properties divided by the tax, total tax levy of that. If you go back to 2017, it was just over a little over $10,000. Today, that industrial base is covering over $50,000 on average. And that's offsetting what a residential taxpayer would pay. And again, that's not long-term.
Right.
That's a blip in time. We gotta just keep our eye on that. It's gonna find its level at some point.
Andrew, stupid question. What is the definition of what's the difference between commercial and industrial? Definition wise?
Commercial's more kind of like retail
Yeah.
establishments.
Store.
Industrial is more warehouse
Yeah.
based. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, warehouse.
So like commercial would be like your storefronts. people that, like, they go out and
You
sell stuff.
probably could
Arnie's and
also,
Kamasi Masonry.
Yeah.
right, I'd be more retail,
Yeah, and then Amazon
So
would
I'd
be
be
more
more
would
commercial.
be-
It'd be commercial.
Right.
Yeah, Amazon would be like industrial, cause they're a warehouse.
I would
LNG.
I would think that zoning would also kind of help you differentiate.
Right.
Different
Yeah.
zonings.
It's
you can
the,
build certain
the
things.
assessor
Right.
is the
Yeah,
one that
assume
kind of
that.
really is
Well,
the
well,
one that.
manufacturing and
Yeah.
industrial versus retail.
Right.
Yep, that makes sense.
Jeremy, you can think of if a customer comes into a place, it's more likely
That's
commercial.
commercial, yeah.
If you're
Yeah.
making something that you're gonna sell
Ship
to
out,
a
right.
customer, it's more industrial
That make-
manufacturing.
That makes sense.
That's why you see that big blip we had.
Thank you all for indulging me.
That's why you see that big blip, cause you had, I mean, not that they were new, but they came onto the tax base, so you had Millennium, come on. Cause the power plant, even though they're not new, remember they were on a pilot before, so now they're under your tax, cause they weren't under your tax base before, so now they are, so that came on. And then, I think MCI would fall under industrial, right? Or,
Yeah.
so MCI
Yep.
in the next year, and then you had Amazon and LNG come in, so that's where all your growth came from.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what we were just, Andrew and I were talking about that earlier, so you had like literally, like it was like back-to-back years of all that growth.
Yep.
Like, when are
And-
you ever
and
gonna see any of that ever again? It
The
was
new
just, we
building
hit
on
the sweet
Route
spot.
20, down by the Sturbridge line, where,
Laying in the dirt.
No permits have been pulled yet. It has been, I mean, it's been approved by the planning board for 3 months before Amazon was approved.
Yeah.
yeah,
And they're making progress now. No word as to what is going there, but we know it's approved as being a 1 million square foot warehouse facility.
Yes, Kurt puts it, they're just playing in the dirt. They're not doing nothing, they're just playing in the dirt.
Okay.
Got no permit, they're just playing in the dirt.
All right.
Yeah, and the rest of it's really just kind of a quick high-level overview of all the department requests.
Yep.
Again, don't check for spelling accuracies, and I did catch a couple of typos in there, so to be amended, but at least gave you guys a quick overview as to what we're looking at right now.
Good. All right, give you some homework. So our next meeting is February 12th, and we're meeting jointly with school
Yeah, I haven't gotten like an
confirmation
official
yet?
invite yet, but when I had reached out to them about our dates, he said that was the date that they were planning for.
Yeah,
So when I get the official invite from them, or if Andrew gets it, we'll forward it over.
yep, okay. And that's always at
I'm
Shepherd
gonna-
Hill.
I'm gonna assume yes, but,
Yeah.
cause there's a lot of.
Actually, and Andrew, did you guys happen to tell the selectmen, or mention, well, we talked about at our last finance committee, that because the school isn't paying, we are not paying the school for the property that the fire station is going to go on. We should keep that in mind and not make statements that schools should be so far down on our priority list.
Well, they moved up to number 2, so.
They moved up to number 2.
They moved up to number 2.
They're
this
right
year.
behind public safety.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. That was,
All right.
those were
I
public
thought-
statements
I
last
thought I
night.
heard you say public safety, DPW, everything else, and then schools.
Well,
Yeah.
no,
No.
they said like public safety, so that includes police, fire, DPW, they're kind of all public safety. Not
Right.
the DPW is not asking for anything, but really, so really fire and police, because they're the two that are asking, and then schools, and then everybody else.
Right.
But the way Andrew and I kind of took it was
Yeah, from the public
kind
safety.
of everybody else pound sand, but
The-
public safety and schools, we're good with those.
Yeah,
Yep.
and the schools, we know that there's a process.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We gotta look, we gotta
Okay.
keep our
That was
eyes
just,
on
that
it.
was the writing that we
Yeah.
saw,
Yeah.
not saying that that's what they said, but,
yeah.
yeah, so.
Okay, I just wanna be, again, clear on that we are, as a community, not paying the school for the property that they paid for at
Right.
some point in the life of their existence.
Right.
Yep.
I
Yep.
feel like that is not something that should be unseen.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, we agree. So that's kind of we were talking earlier that, I mean, we're kind of stuck with Dudley, but
Yeah.
our plan is to, if we can, try to give them what they ask for,
Mhm.
support them and,
Mhm. How we doing in the current fiscal year?
I think we've been trending very well.
Yeah.
Our budgets have kind of been like right on the mark. We're trending below, below estimate. I know probably in March, we'll be able to kind of sit down and do kind of like that mid-year revenue projection.
yep,
There hasn't been anything that says, oh my God, we're really trending below, revenue
Right.
benchmark. It's, specifically because we were very conservative with those numbers. But yeah, I think everything that's been an operational budget, there's nothing that's really been glaring to say that we really have to come back and
Mhm.
address even in the spring at this point.
Right.
Mm.
The only thing that we know will be the one for Board of Health
Mm-hmm.
for their landfill. Obviously, I'm gonna assume snow and ice, that's always there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the engine that we postponed from fall.
Yeah.
So those are the only like really three things that I have on my radar at the moment, so.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I gotta believe that fuel, for instance, is lower than what you expected?
We are right on benchmark. I
Yeah.
just got,
We lock in,
I
so.
got the last two invoices for, or is it the last two invoices that just went past the end of the calendar year, and we were right at 50% spent
Yeah.
on our fuel, so.
Yeah. Which
We've
is
gone beyond,
perfect.
I think we were at like 52% after January 8th, so
Right.
I think we're
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
We're good for right now.
Good.
That's right, where you wanna be 50%
So-
December 31st, it's perfect, halfway through the year.
So we should have a good certified free cash
Well,
number
that's
come
what we're
September,
hoping for.
if we stay on track.
Yep,
Right?
that's what we're hoping for.
I know
Knock
we've done
on wood.
good. We haven't given up any of our money. We still got
Yep.
150. in the
I will
bank.
tell you that library's put on my radar that she's had a bad repair year this year, so she might be back to ask for something.
Did they do such a bad job rebuilding that building? It just seems like we're always
HVAC
facing the
work
library
seems to be always the
repair.
issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. HVAC work, it's just, it seems to be the one thing that,
And that is a
It's
very
constantly an
complicated
issue.
system over there, I guess.
But I recall she's very conservative because she knows she can come to us in an emergency situation.
Right,
and conservativeness goes
I
both ways.
assume.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
it just seems like that building has
It's
had
every-
issues
Yeah.
Yeah.
from day one.
She said last year she had a good year, but I think she came and asked for money last year. So, but last year
I
she had a
thought she
good
did,
year, yeah.
Wasn't it
This
some
year
kind of
she's not.
heating
Yeah,
thermocouple or
HVAC,
something?
yeah.
I forget what it was.
Thermos-
Yeah, they have a lot of HVAC issues over there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I saw that you got bids coming in a couple of days for the fire station.
Yes, we had pushed the due date out. The original date was the end of this week. Just to, we had,
didn't even tell them the best news.
about the special legislative
Yeah.
act. Yeah, so the special legislative act that we needed to,
Oh, yeah.
to
Buy the property.
We
buy
were
the property.
Waiting on pins and needles for,
Pass it the 11th day of the 11th hour, probably,
literally like, I think December
the
30th.
last day of the
or-
legislative session was
Come on.
passed
At
and
like
on.
8 o'clock or
Yeah.
4 o'clock, I don't know, it was late in the day.
Yeah, January 8th, the governor signed the bill, so
Yep.
we can proceed with closing on the property.
Yep.
Sub bids have come in, they seem to be trending below what our budgetary numbers were, so we'll see what GCs come in. I believe it's gonna be, not this Friday, the next Friday that those
Okay.
bids are due, and give us a, good indication where we stand.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, good.
Andrew and I threw a party in his office on the 31st because we were. He told me the news. We were so relieved. I didn't think it was coming. I didn't think it was going to happen.
Yeah, yeah.
When
exactly.
is the proposed, start date for the station?
Probably about beginning of April.
Okay.
That's gonna
Break
be the
ground.
realistic
And then
groundbreaking.
completion?
By the end of 20.
They said at least 18 months.
Yeah, 18 months.
Yeah,
so
Okay.
27.
plus or minus.
Yeah.
Probably more plus.
Yeah, that's where we're trending right now on that. Yeah, fingers crossed.
Good, good. Anything else on the horizon?
I mean, really, this budget planning process. See, I know we gotta start sharpening our pencils and having our own discussions with people about priorities and
Right.
budgets, so.
Waiting for the state numbers to come in to
Yeah.
start super sharpening our pencils, so we have something actual to work against. So,
Yep.
Yeah, it's tough when you don't know where 50% of your budget's gonna land.
right.
Yeah,
Right.
right,
Yeah, we can project out our numbers all day, but when you don't have the state numbers,
right.
You
And
could
BPAP
guess,
is,
but-
BPAP is usually pretty good. It's
Right.
Shepherd Hill, but
yeah. Well, not only that, but it's just this, we need the governor to at least put a budget out there so we can get our numbers from the state. And then that will benefit us for revenue side, but it also benefits us because then the school can give us their numbers,
yeah,
so.
good. So we're in
And I
good
don't know
shape.
if we'll have numbers before the 12th, because last year we didn't have a budget before the 12th.
We should
but
have, we should have a first
it
pass
s-
before the 12th.
Yeah, so hopefully we have
You
at
think
least
so?
something.
Idea,
Yeah.
rough idea.
Yeah. So,
Okay. All right, if we've got nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
I have a motion, I have a second, any discussion? Go ahead, you got a question, you're just voting in favor of? Okay, I didn't call it yet, all those in favor say yes, raise your hand. It is a vote unanimous. Thank you.
Good night, all.
good night.
Good night.